Hello there. Welcome to Marriage Unmasked. Today we're talking about conflict. And conflict is one of those things that really make or break a marriage relationship. So many people struggle with conflict. How do you do conflict? Healthy conflict can actually propel a relationship forward, and unhealthy conflict can really damage and destroy the connection that you both have formed with each other. And so we want to share with you the method for conflict that really saved our marriage.
Yeah, I mean, we were going through so many conflicts, and it really, what if you're in that place too where you feel like all you're doing is arguing. I mean, a lot of couples just repeat the same argument over and over with no resolution, and it literally can make you crazy. I know, for me, I felt so exhausted, so drained by it. And when we get into unhealthy conflict now, I feel the same way. I feel exhausted by it, and it can be like a fast track to ending it, right? Because couples that we've worked with, they just feel like they can't take it anymore. They can't keep having the same conversations. They can't keep sitting in the same pain, and it literally is crazy making. And so when we kind of developed this method for ourselves because we needed it.
Absolutely.
And it really has saved our marriage when we practice it, because we don't always have perfectly healthy conflict. We still don't, because, and we'll talk about that. I mean, unhealed wounds are one of the biggest reasons why you end up going into kind of like an unhealthy conflict cycle, and we are not perfectly healed. And so the wounds that we have still come up, and then we just, spout off. We talk out of that wounded place, and it leads to, escalated emotions, triggering each other, saying things that we wish we didn't say. And it's not moving us towards connection. It's moving us towards disconnection, and that is really painful.
There's their old saying of like hurt people hurt people. And that is really true, because when we are operating out of that hurt place, we end up hurting each other. And we end up continually hurting each other, like back and forth, in this really unhealthy dynamic that just it causes pain and becomes this loop that it's very hard to get out of. You're like stuck in a rut with it, and you're really trying, and you might you might try for a little bit, and then all of a sudden you get triggered back into it, and so it can really feed on itself and be very hard to get out of that loop, in that pain.
Yeah, I mean, the wounds that we brought into marriage, and then that we caused each other in marriage, that is really the reason why we've been in such low places, because we didn't know how to get them healed. And that's really why we created our Healing Your Marriage course. It was from our own healing. And
That's why we named it Healing Your Marriage, because our marriage needed healing.
And we each individually did. And we had to do that work ourselves, to stay together, to stay in this marriage. I mean, we were at a breaking point many times. And so that's one of the big reasons why there is unhealthy conflict, is because of these unhealed wounds. Also, not taking accountability, right? If one person, or I mean, it's usually not just one person, right? It's you both can fall into this so easily, where it's just blame. It's you, it's you, it's you, it's you, it's you. And we're not taking the accountability for our own part in the hurt or the unhealthy conflict, the conversation, whatever, right? And we don't take accountability. And that really escalates things and turns what could be a healthy conflict that leads to growth and understanding. It turns it into an unhealthy conflict that's really painful.
Yeah, a lot of times that's pride. I mean, there's pride. There's this unwillingness to want to, an unwillingness to want to really see your part, because you have this comfort zone of wanting to feel okay, and so you end up trying to like almost put down the other person in order to make yourself feel good again. And you do that, you're actually refusing to take accountability for the part that you're causing, because a conflict is always, there's always both people have a part to play in that conflict. And so it's very helpful to instead really just try to focus in on what have I been doing, what have I been saying that is contributing to the hurt and contributing to the conflict and triggering the other person.
Well, and we'll talk about that. That's actually part of the steps.
Yeah.
But that really, though, pride, that's really again another wound. That's
It
another.
is.
If
Absolutely.
if we saw ourselves as loved as we are, we wouldn't feel that need to try to boost our own, our own worth and feel better in that way. So, a lack of emotional awareness is another really big contributing factor we see in couples who are struggling and in our own conflict. Just not being aware of even what emotions you're feeling or why you're feeling that way or what your needs are or how to have a conversation about emotions, how to validate, how to offer compassion. I mean, this kind of emotional awareness is
Right.
is really important for a healthy relationship, and a lack of it contributes to a lot of unhealthy conflict.
And that was something I struggled with for a long time, is that emotional awareness. And I wonder if, there are quite a few men who do struggle with that we're almost taught to stuff our emotions, to hold them down, and to be a bit unaware of our emotional reality inside. And so that is something that takes a lot of work for men to like really tune in to what you're feeling and identify it, and to be able to do that and to have that emotional intelligence, especially during a conflict and in a situation like that.
Well, and so much of this is around, it comes from, we have beliefs about conflict from the way we were raised. And Adam and I were raised completely differently
Yep.
around conflict. And I was not taught emotional awareness either. I was not taught about healthy conflict
Yeah.
or modeled. And I also I was not taught emotional awareness. So I've had to really grow in that area as well. And I mean, many couples, they don't even know what they actually need. When they're arguing, they don't even know what they need. They don't know what they're feeling, right? And so it just comes out in this spew of hurt. And so it's really helpful to learn these things. And so, I mean, that's a whole bigger conversation. That's all in Arguing Your Marriage course, right? We talk about
Yes.
needs and how to get your needs met and
Forgiveness,
inner healing and all of that stuff.
different
So
things. So many of the modules really apply.
yeah, it's really it's all connected.
Yeah. Yeah. So what healthy conflict is not? Let's talk about that first. First of all, healthy conflict is not impulsive, just going off of your emotions and saying whatever comes to your mind in the moment, because you're not really in a place where you're ready to talk at that point, because you're not operating out of wisdom, you're operating out of reactivity and hurt. And so impulsive is not healthy. If it becomes a debate, that's a sign that you're not in healthy conflict. You're trying to prove that you're right and that the other person is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about a debate, you think about you have your points, right? You're trying to make your points. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose.
And if somebody wins and somebody loses, then you both lose.
Right? Yes.
In a fight, in a marriage. Yes. Another one is name calling. Like if you're starting to label your spouse and call them different names, like you're such a liar, you're hurtful, you're wrong, even those kind of things. Like when you're labeling and name calling, that's unhealthy conflict.
Also, when you start really accusing, like, well, you're always this, you never do that, and it's those hurtful things that can become wounds then that need to be healed again, right, in the marriage, and can cause more unhealthy conflict in the future. And this is like on the other side of the spectrum, but trying to keep the peace, that's also not healthy, right? When you're just holding back, you're withholding, you're
Stuffing your own emotions and holding them down into your heart and not allowing, the truth of how you feel or the truth of what you think to come out, because you're just trying to keep the peace and just trying to make make the conflict go away, stay in a comfort zone. that's not healthy, because everything that you stuff is bound to come out in resentment or something later on.
Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes there was maybe this belief, and I think maybe you came into the marriage having this belief that all conflict is bad.
Yeah.
Conflict is bad.
Keep the peace at all
Yeah,
costs.
yeah. But the thing is, healthy conflict is there. It's an opportunity for you to grow as a couple. It is an opportunity for you to, sharpen each other and show each other maybe some things that are, blind spots where you're not seeing that in yourself, and someone else can help you to see that, and you can grow in that area. So healthy conflict is really useful and can bring you closer in connection. But the unhealthy conflict, again, or no conflict, is robbing your partner and you of so much growth.
Another one is to be fixing the other person. Like if your goal is always to try to fix what you perceive is, unhealthy or what's wrong, quote unquote, with the other person, and you're constantly trying to do that, then that's not healthy. You're actually not taking ownership for your own issues. You're not seeing how you're contributing. You're focusing all on that.
Well, it's just going to lead, and it's going to lead to a lot of conflict, right? Because we are always going to find things we can fix about the other person.
Yeah.
Right?
We're all works in progress.
Yeah, and
so we die.
Yeah, and if that is what your main goal is to try to fix them, or to, bring up every single, and I mean, I've struggled with this where it's like, um, you know, I'm feeling unsafe and I feel like I have to fix him to feel safe in the relationship. And it's just never a good goal for the conversation, right? We want the goal to always be connection, and have that in mind. If we would have learned this stuff early on, oh my goodness, we would have had such healthier conversations.
Oh yeah.
So much less pain. But the goal is always more connection. And if you can remember that as you begin the conversation and maybe even state it out loud, it's a great place to start. Is, hey, let's have a conversation where we actually feel more connected by the end. That's the goal, right? And just stating that can be really helpful. Get both of your minds parked in the right, in this helpful place, that's going to bring you closer together instead of driving you apart. So we have these 3 steps, which we just practice over and over and over and again. And honestly, to be really honest, a lot of times we practice the 3 steps after an unhealthy conflict has already occurred.
There has been some unhealthy stuff happening already first.
And we're like, oh,
wait a minute.
We didn't practice the 3 steps. And
for a while, we actually posted the 3 steps like in a place where we could see them, because it's like it is hard. It's hard to remember because the stuff can crop up so fast and can trigger into this unhealthy conflict so quickly. It's good to remind yourself, wait a minute, there's a better way to do this. There's a more powerful way, a more impactful way, a healthy way to do this. And let's correct this and get on track again. And so we had to post it for a while just to remind ourselves, let's get back to our steps.
Well, and we, as you're learning, you're not going to probably remember. So it is a good idea to write it down, because you're not going to even remember what the steps are. So, and we go through all these steps really very completely in this module in our Healing Your Marriage course. We have a whole module on conflict and communication. And so, the biggest thing really, as you're getting ready to practice the 3 steps, is to come to the conversation in peace. And that really feeds into the first step. So each person, step 1 is for each person to share their feelings and their thoughts without blame. And you simply cannot do that unless you are just like forcing yourself to do it. If you aren't coming to the conversation in peace, getting your needs met with God beforehand, right? So for me, if we're having a conversation, and let's say the conversation is, I feel like, it seems to me Adam is not, he's just not managing the responsibilities that he has on his plate. I'm just giving you an example here. And so I'm all upset about this, right? I am feeling unsafe in our relationship because I feel like it seems like I can't depend on him. He's not reliable. He says one thing, he doesn't do it, right? All these thoughts I have in my head. I'm feeling really frustrated. I'm feeling unsafe. So I can recognize before I start the conversation, okay, what am I feeling? Okay, I'm feeling frustrated, feeling unsafe. I'm feeling maybe I'm angry. And so I'm talking to God about this, right? I'm having a whole nother conversation with God before I even talk to Adam. And I'm, letting it all out. Like, I can't believe he did this again. I can't believe that he said he was going to do this. He didn't. I took it off my plate because I thought it was handled, but really, I guess I have to always be thinking about what is on his plate and my plate, right? So I'm just all these thoughts, right? I'm choosing all these. They're not helpful thoughts, but they're thoughts, and so I want to get them all out there. Maybe I journal, right? Maybe I journal out all the thoughts, and I'm just getting them all out.
All the thoughts you would normally be impulsive and like throwing at your spouse, get them out to God.
Yeah.
Instead.
Yeah.
That is huge because he is a soft landing pad for all of those thoughts and feelings and all of that negative energy. He is a soft landing pad for it because he already knows the whole situation and he wants to take that in. He wants to receive that from you rather than you all of a sudden burden your spouse with all of those negative things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's so important to let yourself feel that emotion. There's not an emotion that's bad. You don't need to judge yourself for feeling angry or for feeling frustrated. Just allow that emotion to like feel it. The other night I was feeling frustrated, and I like to ask myself like, where do I feel this? And I felt it in my stomach. My stomach actually was in pain, and it was because I wasn't identifying this emotion and allowing myself to feel it. So notice where in your body you feel that emotion and allow yourself to feel it. And then, if you're feeling like, let's say I'm feeling really frustrated and unsafe, I like to ask God, like, how do you want to meet my need for safety right now? So that I'm coming to the conversation. Yes, I'm going to talk about my feelings with Adam, but I'm going to come with not grasping for like, oh, I feel so unsafe with you. Can you just make me feel safe?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to come, hey, I feel at peace because I know God is my safe place. All right. I'm reminded that he is my refuge, that he is so consistent, that he never breaks my trust, that he is always the same. And so with that reminder on my heart, I'm able to come to the conversation with totally different energy. And so then step one is I share. So I share, okay, well, I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling unsafe right now. I'm not going to say I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling unsafe because you never do this and because I asked you to do this and you didn't do it. And so we're not going to do that. Blame. Right? It's just the feeling. It's just the emotion. I am feeling the actual emotion, right? And then I can take ownership for my thoughts as well, to share my thoughts. So I can say the thought I'm choosing, if I want to share that thought, like you aren't handling your business, right? I'm going to share that in a way that I'm taking ownership because that is my thought. That is not the truth, right? Because if I'm saying that as it's the truth, then yeah, it turns into blame and accusation and judgment, and that's hurtful. So I'm saying the thought I'm choosing right now is you're not handling the stuff that you said you'd handle. I know that's my own thought, right? And I'm working on choosing a new thought, right? So I'm taking ownership of that thought as well.
And my role in this time when she's sharing these things is to simply listen with understanding and actively be listening to her and taking these things in, not defending, not, jumping in there. So again, I need to be coming at peace as well so that I can hear these things from a peaceful place with open ears and open heart and be like, okay, I want to know what she's feeling. I want to know what she's thinking so that I can understand. So my goal is to actually listen to understand her perspective on the situation and not to start thinking of my own arguments, not to start like getting defensive or getting all worked up and sometimes that can start to happen if I'm not in peace yet. And so sometimes it's helpful even in this process if you're getting out of peace again to talk about that and to bring that up and say, hey, I'm not feeling at peace right now. I actually need a little time to kind of, I'm taking in what you're saying, I'm listening to you, I respect what you're saying, but I actually am starting to feel out of peace again, and I need to get, because that can happen in the
Yeah,
course of
for
this
sure. Especially if one
conversation.
partner initiated the conversation, the other
Yep.
one's maybe not ready,
Right.
not fully ready. So
Like
then
maybe it's a bit of a surprise, like you weren't expecting that conversation to come up. You may need some time to kind of process those things and to like process with God again, the other spouse.
Yeah.
So it's not,
Taking a break is totally
yeah,
okay.
and it's very healthy to do.
Yeah.
Taking 1,000 breaks, maybe not, but
That has
that
happened.
has happened too. That has happened too, and that's not as healthy because it can drag on then. But I mean, it is a process, and there is some patience needed in the process, so that you can be at peace and that you can communicate from a healthy place.
Yeah. So then after I say my thoughts and my feelings, then it is Adam's turn. It's not his turn to go on the defensive. No, it's his turn to share his feelings and take ownership for his own thoughts.
Yes.
So then it's my turn to listen. So then I'm listening.
Yeah.
And you're sharing.
And I might share things like I am feeling, a lot of stress. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling I am feeling shame around not doing the things that I promised to do, and I have thoughts about, that maybe I have excuses that are coming up in my brain, and those are just thoughts coming up. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm thinking this, but that's a story I'm telling myself.
Yeah.
Well, the story I'm telling myself right now is that I I didn't have time to do X, Y, and Z, because I prioritized something else, and so I take ownership for the fact.
Yeah. And so that's, I'm listening and I'm listening to try to really hear his heart, right? I'm trying to listen to understand. And again, the goal is connection. I'm not listening for like, is he making an excuse? Is he, look at what he's doing. Is he trying to not take ownership, right? Our brain is so sneaky that way, right? And the enemy wants to use conflict so horribly, right? He just wants it to go wrong every time where it is painful and hurtful. And so we have to really be very conscious of like the thoughts and again, just like the goal is connection, the goal is connection. I want to understand you.
And maintaining that peace, like you're maintaining that peaceful place that you're coming to it with heart and ears open.
Yep. So then the second step is to validate each other and ask any questions. If I'm like, okay, so I hear that you prioritize something else. I'm curious why you prioritized something else. Like we can ask questions with curiosity, with actual genuine curiosity, not with accusation.
Right.
Like, why did you do that? That doesn't make any sense, right? This is coming natural to us to like real life. But anyway, so you're validating their feelings. You don't have to validate their story.
Yes.
But then you can ask questions. And then the third step really is to take ownership for and apologize for if there were things that you do need to take ownership for and apologize for.
Like I'm sorry. I realize now I prioritized something that shouldn't have been my priority at that time, and I'm very sorry for doing that, and I can understand that you would feel hurt by that priority that I made.
Yeah, and all three of these steps are really so important. And we want to just encourage you again, write them down. Step one, each person shares their feelings and their thoughts without blame, without accusation. Step two is to validate your spouse and ask any questions with curiosity. And then step three is to take ownership and apologize if needed. And we just want to leave you with some good questions to kind of start your own reflection. And you can't change our spouse. Even in these conversations, we wish we could make them come with peace, make them behave in a certain way. We can't. We can only affect ourselves. But even in your own work, in your own healing, you can inspire a different atmosphere around, conflict. So
Mhm.
the first question is, do I create emotional safety for my spouse to be honest? Are you creating that safe place for them to be vulnerable, to open their heart, to share their feelings? Or are there things maybe that need to be apologized for from the past? Or you're letting them know, like, I realize I have been really judgmental. I have been really I jump on the things that you say, and I accuse right away. I'm so sorry, and my goal is to now show up in a different way, right? You're creating that safety for them to open their heart, even if you don't like what they say. Are you a safe place? That's one question to really think about and reflect on.
Yeah. Another question to reflect on is, what do I typically do when conflict arises? And that's important because maybe the typical response is to shut down, or maybe the typical response is to like blow up and just get really emotional and really, really upset. And so be aware of that, because that awareness is half the battle. To just be aware of, this is what I have typically done in conflict, and it hasn't worked. It hasn't helped. It hasn't been a healthy thing to do. So you bring that awareness, and then you start to intentionally change the way that you approach that conflict in the future.
Mm-hmm. And then the third question is just, how do I usually start hard conversations, right? Do I lead with blame, or am I leading with vulnerability? Am I sharing my emotions and sharing that in a vulnerable, non-threatening way, or am I coming with a lot of pain, a lot of blame, and no shame if you do? These questions are just to create awareness for you. We're not saying you're bad, you do things the wrong way.
If you're shaming yourself, it's going to defeat the growth that you're trying to have, because the shame often keeps us stuck in a place of hurt and a place of unhealthy conflict.
Yeah, I mean, nothing healthy is coming out of shame.
No.
We always want to bring in life. We always want to invite love in, and invite compassion in. Like, maybe you learned this is what we saw modeled for you, was that's how people did it in your family. They blamed each other, they accused, or maybe you saw people were just stuffing down their own thoughts and emotions, and no one was ever talking about anything real and honest. And so that's what you know. So you can invite compassion into yourself, and then invite that growth, but no shame is needed for sure. No. So we understand this is such a complex topic. That's why we did a whole module in our Healing Your Marriage course, and we really dive deeper into each step.
Yes,
And
more in depth into everything here that we've been mentioning.
yeah, and we're happy to walk alongside you in any of this. If you have questions, or if you'd like to, get some coaching on it, that is totally normal. I mean, we struggled for years on this, and we still don't do it perfectly. So this is a hard topic. It takes a lot of intentional effort, a lot of intentional self-control, and really asking God into it, inviting Him in, listening to His voice. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, Holy Spirit, close my mouth, give me something to say, help me right now in the middle of the conflict, right? I'm like, God, I need you right now. I need you. I need you. I need you. I need you. I need you.
Yeah, and you progress in it as you practice it. So even if you don't get it right, like it's okay. Like, just recognize any growth you have in this process, because any growth is better than where the conflict was before,
Yeah.
and how unhealthy it was. So take steps into this, and the more you work at it, the more you practice it, the more you'll grow in it, and you'll have healthier conflict.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about right or wrong, right? It's not about this is the right way, that's the wrong way.
It's about growth.
Yeah, it's just about inviting a healthier, starting a healthier journey, and growing in that area. So celebrate the little things. Maybe you started it off really well. Well, then, yes, awesome.
Yes.
That's progress. So
Absolutely.
we're here if you need us, and we really hope that this was impactful for you.